Part 2. The young man took the watch. He was so angry that he almost left, but he stopped himself. He remembered that he had no other place to go and that he had another reason for coming. "Give it to me," he said in a rough voice. The old woman put her hand in her pocket, took out her keys, and went behind the curtain into the other room. The young man stood alone in the middle of the room and listened carefully. He could hear her opening the chest of drawers. "It must be the top drawer," he thought. "So she keeps the keys in a pocket on the right side. All keys are together on a steel ring. And there is one key that is much bigger than the others. It has deep cuts. That cannot be the key for the chest of drawers. So there must be another box, or strong box. That is important to know. Strong boxes always have big keys like that. But how ugly all this is." The old woman came back. "Here, sir. As we say, 10 kopecks for 1 ruble every month. So for 1 ruble and a half, I must take 15 kopecks for the month in advance. For the 2 rubles I gave you before, you now owe 20 kopecks in advance. That makes 35 kopecks together. So I will give you 1 ruble and 15 kopecks for the watch. Here it is." "What? Only 1 ruble and 15 kopecks now?" "Yes, that is right." The young man did not argue. He took the money. He looked at the old woman. He was not in a hurry to leave. It seemed he still wanted to say or do something, but he did not know exactly what. "I may bring you something else in a day or two, Alyona Ivanovna," he said. "It will be a valuable thing, silver, a cigarette box. As soon as I get it back from a friend." He stopped because he felt confused. "Well, we will talk about it then, sir. Goodbye. Are you always at home alone? Is your sister not here with you?" He asked this question as if it was not important while he walked to the door. "What is that to you, my good sir?" "Oh, nothing special. I just asked. You answer too quickly. Good day, Alyona Ivanovna." Raskolnikov went out feeling completely confused. This confusion became stronger and stronger. As he went down the stairs, he stopped 2 or 3 times, as if a new thought suddenly hit him. When he was in the street again, he cried out loud, "Oh God, how terrible it all is! Can I really do it? No, it is nonsense! It is rubbish!" He spoke with strong decision. "How could such a horrible idea come into my head? My heart is capable of very dirty things. Yes, dirty, disgusting, horrible. And for a whole month, I have been thinking about it." But no words were enough to show how he felt. The strong feeling of disgust that started when he was walking to the old woman's house had now become very powerful. It had a clear shape. He did not know what to do to escape this terrible feeling. He walked along the pavement like a drunk man. He did not see the people around him and sometimes bumped into them. He only woke up when he reached the next street. He looked around and saw that he was standing near a tavern. Steps went down from the pavement to the basement. At that moment, 2 drunk men came out of the door. They were shouting and holding each other. Without thinking, Raskolnikov went down the steps. Until that day, he had never been inside a tavern. But now he felt dizzy and had a strong thirst. He wanted cold beer. He thought his weakness came because he had not eaten. He sat down at a small sticky table in a dark and dirty corner. He ordered beer and drank the first glass quickly. At once, he felt better. His thoughts became clearer. "All that is nonsense," he said to himself with hope. "There is nothing to worry about. It is only a problem with my body. Just 1 glass of beer and a piece of dry bread, and in 1 moment the brain becomes stronger, the mind becomes clearer, and the will becomes firm. How small and unimportant it all is." But although he tried to laugh at himself, he now looked more cheerful. It was as if a heavy burden had suddenly left him. He looked around the room in a friendly way at the other people. But even then, he had a small feeling that this better mood was also not normal. There were not many people in the tavern at that time. Besides the two drunk men he had seen on the steps, a group of about 5 men and a girl with a concertina had left at the same time. After they left, the room became quiet and almost empty. The people still there were. One man who looked like a worker. He was drunk, but not too drunk. He sat in front of a pot of beer. His companion was a big fat man with a gray beard. He wore a short coat. He was very drunk and had fallen asleep on the bench. From time to time he moved in his sleep, cracked his fingers with arms wide open, and sang some meaningless song. He tried to remember words like, "His wife a year he fondly loved," or suddenly he woke up a little and sang. Walking along the crowded row, he met the one he used to know. But no one enjoyed his singing. His silent companion looked at him with anger and distrust. There was also another man in the room who looked like a retired government clerk. He sat alone, sometimes drinking from his pot and looking at the others. He also seemed worried and nervous. Chapter 2. Raskolnikov did not like crowds. He usually avoided people. Especially in the last month, he stayed alone all the time. But now, suddenly, he wanted to be with other people. Something new was happening inside him. He felt a strong wish for company. He was very tired after a whole month of deep sadness and dark thoughts. He wanted to rest, even for a short time, in any other world. Even though the place was dirty, he was glad to stay in the tavern. The owner of the tavern was in another room, but he often came down the steps into the main room. First, you saw his shiny boots with red tops. He wore a full coat and a very greasy black waistcoat. He had no tie. His face looked oily, like an iron lock. At the counter stood a boy of 14. Another younger boy brought things to the customers. On the counter there was sliced cucumber, pieces of dry black bread, and small pieces of fish. Everything smelled very bad. The air in the room was heavy and close. The smell of alcohol was so strong that 5 minutes there could make a man drunk. Sometimes you meet a stranger and feel interested from the first moment, even before he speaks. This happened to Raskolnikov. A man sitting not far from him looked like a retired clerk. Raskolnikov remembered this meeting later and thought it was a sign of something. He looked at the clerk many times. The clerk also looked at him all the time. He clearly wanted to talk. To other people in the room, including the tavern owner, the clerk looked with contempt. He seemed to think he was better than them because of his education and position. The clerk was a man over 50. He was bald, with gray hair. He was of medium height and rather fat. His face was yellow and even greenish from drinking. His eyes were red and sharp. But there was something strange in his eyes, a light of strong feeling, perhaps even intelligence, but also a gleam of madness. He wore an old black coat that was very ragged. All buttons were missing except one, and he buttoned that one. He wanted to keep at least one sign of respectability. His shirt was crumpled and had many spots. Like a clerk, he had no beard or mustache, but his chin was unshaven for a long time and looked like a gray brush. His manners were still a little official, but he was restless. He ruffled his hair and sometimes put his head in his hands. He rested his dirty elbows on the sticky table. At last he looked straight at Raskolnikov and spoke loudly and clearly. "May I speak with you, honored sir? Although your clothes do not look rich, my experience tells me that you are an educated man and not used to drinking. I always respect education when it comes with good feelings. I am a titular counselor. My name is Marmeladov. May I ask, have you been in government service? No, I am studying, answered the young man. He was a little surprised by the man's grand way of speaking and by the direct question. A student, or a former student, cried the clerk. That is what I thought. I have great experience, sir. He tapped his forehead with his fingers. You studied at some institution, but allow me... He stood up, staggered a little, took his jug and glass, and sat down beside Raskolnikov. He was drunk, but he spoke fluently. He only sometimes lost a thread of his words. He spoke to Raskolnikov as if he had not talked to anyone for a whole month. Honored sir, he began almost solemnly, poverty is not a vice. That is true. But I also know that drunkenness is not a virtue. That is even truer. But beggary is a real vice. In poverty, you can still keep your noble soul. But in beggary, never. In beggary, a man is swept out of society like dirt with a broom. And that is right, because in beggary I am ready to humiliate myself first. That is why I come to the tavern.
Подпишись, пожалуйста, или хотя бы поставь лайк. Один лайк не меняет мир, но меняет путь того, кто делится смыслом.